Hi, this is Christopher Pettit on behalf of Analytical Consulting. Today we're going to be talking about teacher retention and why it's such a big issue. Earlier this year, we were so honored when you approached us about creating an analytical report on APS's teacher turnover rates. And today we're going to be talking about an actual proposal to help fix the issue. So, first things first, what is teacher retention? What is teacher turnover rate? Why are we talking about it? Why is it a problem? And why on every educational blog or board or website does this seem to be at the forefront of everyone's mind? And the answer, quite obviously, is that it's a very big problem. And it's a problem that's affecting the entire nation right now. Pretty much everyone is seeing new highs of teacher turnover rates. So this isn't just an APS problem. This is something that's affecting everyone. And right now in America, we're seeing teacher turnover rates between 18 to 20% annually. And this is a very big deal. That means that a fifth of all teachers every single year are quitting or leaving the profession or retiring or leaving in some fashion, which is a very big problem because it's expensive to replace a good teacher, and it also affects the kids' scores as well. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But on top of this 18 to 20% annual turnover, we're also seeing that half of all new teachers are quitting the profession within 5 years. Now, this is a very big problem because instead of having a teaching force in America that's well trained and well versed and has lots of experience, we've all had those teachers that have been teaching their whole lives that have been absolutely wonderful. They've got their way that they teach down. They got the way they interact with the kids down. They've been doing it for 15, 20, 25 years. Basically, if this keeps up, of new teachers quitting within 5 years, and every year after that, more and more are leaving. Basically, these old refined teachers is going to become a statistical anomaly, or we're not going to have those teachers anymore that have been doing it so many years. And really, the question is why? Why are so many people getting into the profession and then leaving? So first things first. Why do we care about it, and why is this such a big problem? Is because it's a very expensive problem. Across the nation, it's costing America about $7 billion a year. And here at APS, well, not quite that much. It's still a very big issue. APS has a limited budget, and with that budget, our estimated annual cost of just getting a new teacher into the classroom is costing us about 16 to $18.5 million every single year. This is a very big deal. I mean, just think about how else this money could be used. This could be used for teachers' raises. This could be used for make sure our classrooms are well stocked. We could even have smaller classroom sizes, which, as we all know, is a very big deal in how kids learn and how well they retain information. So it's an expensive problem. Now, obviously, we're never going to get this down to 0% because people retire, people move, but a fifth every single year, 18 to 20% every single year, is a very big deal. It's a very expensive deal as well. Number two, it hurts students in a very big way. Lower test scores pretty much across the board. University of Michigan recently did a study looking at math and English in particular. They found a few different schools that were similar in terms of size, in terms of economy, and looked at the math and English scores. Some schools had absolutely no teacher turnover, and the other schools had 100% teacher turnover. And what they found was that scores differed by between 4.9 and 10.2%. Now, this is an entire letter grade. This is the difference between a C and a B, or a B plus and an A minus. These are very big scores that they found. that when teachers are moving in and out and there's not a stable school, it's actually affecting our kids as well. And that's really the biggest deal. That's why there's an APS. That's why we're even here today, is because we're trying to figure out the best way that kids can learn. And teachers leaving, high attrition rates, affects kids in a very real way. Okay, so why are they leaving? It's a very good question. It's a lot of different answers. We wanted to focus mainly on APS, so we interviewed a number of teachers. We also pulled reports and interviews from different news media, basically to just get a snapshot on what teachers are saying on why they're leaving. And the four biggest reasons that we found were standardized testing, too little pay, low job satisfaction, and poor management support. So when we look at these, we have standardized testing and poor management support on top, followed by low job satisfaction and then too little pay. So these might look like four separate issues, but when we actually started talking to the teachers and delving in to the problems, we realized more and more that these four are actually very, very closely related. And basically what's happening is, and this is happening across the nation, as school districts start adopting more and more standardized testing practices, schools start moving towards restraining what teachers feel that they can teach, and just focusing on teaching only what can be tested through Common Core, only what can be tested in standardized testing. For example, let's say a teacher wants to help their class with their listening skills, or maybe their oral speaking skills, public speaking. They might bring this up to their administration, and administration a lot of times right now is basically shooting these things down and saying that can't be tested through Common Core. You're not allowed to test that. Even though it's something that this teacher feels that these kids could really benefit from, it's something that they could learn from. It's an important life skill. It's an important thing to have in a workplace environment. These teachers feel now that their hands are tied and they're not allowed to teach the way that they want to teach. So they look at standardized testing and they see that as the culprit. And they also look at management and say, hey, I'm coming to you with these problems that I see with my kids, and I need your help. And a lot of management is just saying, no, stick to the curriculum. So pretty much we have these people, these educators, that have been going to school for years, got a 4-year degree, oftentimes did a mentorship program just to start teaching in the classroom. When they get into the classroom, they're excited to start impacting these kids' lives. They're finding that they're not being allowed to teach the way that they want to teach. They're not allowed to see problems and address them and try and help the kids work through them. They have to stick to a set curriculum. And this is basically also leads into the low job satisfaction rating, and also into too little pay. Most teachers know when they go into teaching that it's not a high-paying job. This is fairly well known. No one goes into teaching thinking that they're going to come out as a millionaire. So really, when we look at too little pay, what's happening is that teachers start teaching. They don't feel like they're being treated as professionals. They feel like they're just as people facilitating testing, and they have these crazy kids, and they feel like they're not getting paid enough for what they do because they don't love their jobs. They don't love what they're doing. So as we see, these four different issues are actually very, very closely linked. And the problem, if we can sum it up, would basically be teachers feel like testing facilitators, not professionals. This is a problem. This is a morale problem within teachers. And again, this is something completely across the board in America. So who can we emulate? So what can we do differently? What is someone doing out there differently that's completely changing the game, that's setting themselves apart? So we scoured the country, looking at a whole bunch of different school boards and teaching departments and et cetera, trying to figure out Who wasn't having this problem? Who wasn't having high amounts of teacher attrition? Who was doing something fundamentally different? And we did find, obviously there's some school districts that are doing things different and they're seeing a little bit of success, but most of what we found is very little, very minor, 1 or 2% kind of stuff. So we expanded our search. We started looking more globally, and we found our answer, surprisingly enough, in Finland. Finland, small northern Nordic country, for those of you that don't know. Finland, a few years ago, surprised a lot of the education community when their kids tested as some of the smartest kids in the world. They're beating out countries where kids do a lot more homework hours per capita, a whole lot more classroom hours per capita, such as in China and Japan, Korea. All of a sudden, Finland came out of nowhere and kind of just blew everyone out of the way. And what really blew them out of the way is the way that Finland's education system is set up. So back in the 1990s, Finland decided to change their whole education system. And they decided, if they're going to be a successful country, well, they needed their kids, the ones that are in school, to have the best education that they could. So in order to do that, they really had to focus on the teachers. So you can even go on Finland's own government website, and it'll tell you right there that teachers are their most honored professionals. To be a teacher in Finland is like being a doctor or a surgeon, a scientist, an engineer here. It's a very big deal. If you tell someone you're a teacher, they give you a pat on the back, a thumbs up, say thank you. To be a teacher in Finland is a respectable position in a level that hasn't been like that here in America in quite some time. And because of this, teachers go through a lot of work. One, they feel trusted to make decisions. They feel trusted by their administration. Their administration generally is actually very hands-off. And they let teachers do what they want to do in their classroom. They trust them to teach the kids in the best way and to make the best decisions. And they basically treat them as professionals that know what they're doing and that know how to teach. And same thing with teachers here in America. I mean, we're talking about a 4-year degree. We're talking about a lot of times a mentorship in order to just get into their own classroom. But then when they get in, they're by themselves, they feel that their hands are tied. So here, teachers are trusted to make their own decisions. There's not a set curriculum, so there's no stringent barriers or walls that they have to kind of live or play by. They're able to teach to each individual needs, and that's our next point. Classes are adapted to individual needs. If a teacher notices the kids are performing poorly in one area or there's an other area that needs more work, they're free to do that on the fly as they see fit. There's no teacher report cards, saying how well a teacher's doing based on testing scores. Nothing like that. In fact, they weren't even really going for high test scores when they started this new education system back in the 1990s. It's just happened to work. They gave the power to the teachers, trusted them to make the right decisions, made it a prestigious profession, and it took care of itself, basically. Okay, so what we're not proposing is getting rid of Common Core and getting rid of standard testing. Hopefully, if we've demonstrated by now, testing itself isn't the problem. It's how it's run out. It's how it is enacted. There's a right and a wrong way to use testing. And what we're proposing is that we use testing to help support teachers and not to degrade them. So number one, use test scores as a tool, not a guideline. Teacher has no control over the kids that they're going to get inside their classroom. They have no control over their learning capability, over what they already learned, over who their teacher was the past year, or how their parents support their education at home. So basically, what we need to do is use test scores, yes, but use them as a tool, not a guideline. Meaning, if a particular classroom comes back and they have low science scores, an administration, you don't go to the teacher and say, you need to teach science better. It's your fault that these kids have such bad science test scores. You need to come to them and say, hey, these kids have low science scores. What can I do to help you to make them better? What can we change? What can we improve? How can I, as a facilitator, help you as a teacher to be more effective? 2, you need to trust the passion and education of your staff. Again, these aren't people that just applied off the street. To be a teacher nowadays, you have to have a degree. You have to go through a lot of hoops. It's something you really have to want. It's something that you really have to care for. So you need to be able to trust that inside of each of your students to make the right decisions, to not always be hounding on them. Because if you trust someone and you're able to give them that authority and you give them that trust, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, they're going to surprise you. Obviously, you're going to have a few teachers that might try and slack off or something like that. And you're there as an education, as an administration staff, as a school board to help support that and steer them in the right direction. But trust the passion of your education staff. Let them teach the way that they want to teach. And number 3, allow your staff to make mistakes. So many teachers are so scared of stepping out of line, of doing the wrong thing right now, of not getting good standardized testing scores back. They're afraid to really try anything, to reinvent, to find better ways to teach. And basically by allowing your staff to make mistakes, to try different things, see if it works in the classroom. If it does, awesome. If it not, we'll try something else. This makes them feel empowered, leads to better job satisfaction. When they go to their administration and say, hey, I want to try this, and their administration says, awesome, sounds great, what do you need in order to do this? They're going to trust their management more. And they're not going to be angry at standardized testing every time that it comes around. So pretty much, I mean, to sum up our proposal, it's not any kind of policy change. What APS needs is a cultural change. It's a change in how we view our educators. It's a change in how we view our teachers, that they're not just replaceable. They're not just someone we can kick in and get out if they're not meeting course criteria, that these are respectable people that have been doing a lot of school for a lot of time, that are generally very passionate about it. Again, it's very rarely about making lots of money, anything like that. It's people that are passionate about teaching kids and trust them and allow them to teach the way that they feel that they need to teach. Now, this isn't an easy thing, and this is a thing that definitely takes time in order to enact, but it starts at the top. It starts right here. It starts at the school board, and then it goes from the superintendent, and it trickles all the way down there into the very classroom. And when we start seeing teachers feeling supported, we're going to be shocked. I'm 100% sure we're going to be shocked, not only by how many teachers stay in the classroom, but stay long term, but also by how much it's going to affect our kids. Every single one of our kids in the APS department. This doesn't cost anything. This isn't, a whole new policy that we need to roll out, and there has to be a testing and training on it. This is a culture that needs to be adapted. And it starts right here, and it starts right here today. So to basically help to get the word out, we've even created a PSA, a poster for the public, demonstrating how our teachers are so important. So here we have a lawyer, a doctor, a scientist, and the most important job is the one that taught them all, is our teachers. Because they raise up our future. And without the teachers, without those wonderful educators, as a community, we would have no future at all. So to give them the respect that they deserve and the admiration that they need is our proposal. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know if you have any questions. Again, my name is Christopher Pettit on behalf of Analytical Consulting. Hope you have a great day.